Hi, welcome to Sue Marie P. Today I've got a spelt twist bread with chocolate and orange, two of my favourite flavours combined into one. It's delicious. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's well worth it, and you have a fantastic breakfast treat for the weekend. So step one, we're going to pop some water in here. I've just got my recipe on my computer, so I'm going to have a look. So we need to add about 40 to 60 mils, but I'm going to do 40 to start with. And then into that I've got one packet, which is 2 teaspoons or 7 grams of instant dried yeast. And in here I've got 2 tablespoons of caster sugar. So we're just going to pop them together. That just helps activate the quick yeast and dissolves the sugar. So we'll sit there at that for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll just put a timer on for 10 minutes. In the meantime, prepare your loaf tin. I like doing it in a long loaf tin, or you can do it in a shorter one, then you just have like a higher bread. But this is a long loaf tin. I've greased it with butter and lined it with paper, so that's all ready to go. And as I said, we're doing it with some orange. So I've got one orange that I've zested. Actually, I've zested 2 oranges, and I've squeezed the juice of one, and we'll just use about 2 teaspoons. So what I'll do is I'll put the flour in to start with. So in here I've got white spelt flour, 300 grams, or you can do a combination of whole grain and white. If you don't use spelt flour, you can use strong white bread flour. You could possibly use plain flour, but your dough just won't be as bread-like. It's because it doesn't have as much protein in, you don't get that real softness. So let's pop some. Let me just double check my notes before I get too carried away. So we've done the yeast, add the flour, the juice, the zest. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of the zest, and I'm going to leave some for inside or on the icing for later on. And then I'm going to do some juice. So juice of 1 lemon, which is about 7 tablespoons or 60 mils. So I'm going to pop that in. I'm just going to mix this on low to start with, just to incorporate those things. Oh, I'm going to do a pinch of salt. Not completely necessary, but I don't know, a pinch of salt and everything tastes great. And then in here we've got some cubed butter. It's unsalted butter, 75 grams. But before that, I'm just going to wait till my yeast is done. I want to add that first, but I want to crack an egg into here. So it's just 1 egg. I should have mentioned the water was slightly warm. It's not too hot because it will kill the yeast if it's too hot. I don't think I'm going to wait the full 7 minutes. I think it's already started activating, so I think it's good to go. And I'll pop the egg in. There's a bit of yeast left over, so I'm just going to try and scrape that out. So twist bread or Babka bread is what's called an enriched dough, which means it's got some egg and butter in there, so the dough is really soft and brioche-like. Just pump that up a bit. And adding the extra zest and juice just gives it a really gorgeous flavour. I'm going to start adding one of these cubes at a time. So that's about 75 grams of butter. Move my computer out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. We need to let this mix for about 6 minutes. With spelt flour, you don't want to overmix it. Now you can prep this up to the kneading stage and pop it in your fridge overnight. Get it out the next day, make it room temperature, and then proceed with the next step. But we're going to do it all in one day today. And don't forget, if you like my video, hit the thumbs up. And if you're new, subscribe. All you need is a Google account, hit the bell, and then you get notified when I've got a new video. And our aim is to get this bowl clean on the side, so let's just pump it up a bit. I actually think that's ready. So next step, either pop some oil on your hands or some flour. Just want to grab our dough out. So it's lovely and sticky and soft and beautiful. So let's just add a little bit of flour to our bowl. The dough. And you can either cover the bowl with plastic or a damp cloth. But I'm going to use, I've got a lid that goes on my KitchenAid bowl, so I'm just going to pop the lid on. We need to rest this for about 1 hour to 2 hours till it's doubled in size, So I'm going to put a timer on for an hour and then we'll come back and check it. Time is on, and the next step is I want to show you how we do the chocolate filling. So let's just pop that to one side. So I'm just going to do it. I've got 40 grams, I think. What have I got? 50 grams of chocolate, and I'm just going to melt that over a little saucepan with some water in it. So I'm just going to get that started behind me. So our chocolates are melted, and into that I'm going to add a few other ingredients. So I've got some cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. There's 20 grams of icing sugar. I'm just going to measure that in tablespoons. It's about 2.5 tablespoons of icing sugar. Just going to sift that together. If you didn't want to bother making your own chocolate spread, you could use Nutella or a hazelnut spread, but this one's absolutely delicious. And then just 1 tablespoon of dark brown sugar, 45 grams, it's about 2 and a bit tablespoons of butter. And we just want to mix all that together. I'll get it off this trivet. So I allowed my chocolate to cool down slightly, so then I can make this nice and thick. But if you did have your chocolate a little bit too warm, you can pop this in the freezer for 5 to 10 minutes to make it go a little bit cool. I don't have any freezer room, so I'm just going to mix this up and then pop it in the fridge. So you just want to make sure that the sugar's all dissolved and the butter's mixed in. And I've used dark chocolate, but if you dislike dark chocolate and you prefer milk chocolate, feel free to use milk chocolate. But I've used a 70% dark chocolate. So we love dark chocolate here. Okay, just going to pop that in the fridge. So the last section, I forgot to turn my mics on. So all turned on now. Now pop the oven onto 170 degrees C to preheat it. And we've still got about 17 minutes on the clock before we pop the bread in. Grab a bowl with your sifter and we're going to make some icing. So this is optional, but it tastes delicious and just adds a little extra dimension. So we're going to put this icing sugar, 50 grams. So I'm just going to sift that into this bowl. I love using a whisk to help me sift. And then I've got some orange juice from the other orange that I zested. So I'm going to put in, my recipe is 1 to 2 tablespoons, but I like doing 1 tablespoon at a time, and then I can just kind of gauge where it's at. So I'll just mix that together. We want a reasonably runny icing to drizzle over the top. And 1's not quite enough, so let's just grab another one. So that's all ready for when our twist bread is ready. So I'll just pop that to one side. And I've got some zest from before that I've got left over, so I'll sprinkle that on too. I'm just going to taste this. Orangey, zingy, yum. Our dough's looking pretty good, but I'm just going to give it, about another 15 minutes and then we'll pop it in the oven. So our babka's ready to go in the oven. And the oven's lovely and hot. So I'm going to bake this on the middle shelf for about 30 minutes. Just a little tip to ensure that your crust is really thin and the inside is really moist. I am going to add some water to the bottom tray in my oven. It helps create a little bit of steam, but you need to be careful that you don't burn yourself when you get your bread out. So let's pop this in for 30 minutes. I got the bread out 5 minutes early, so it only took 25 minutes. I have this nose that smells and tells when things are done. So I'll pop that in the recipe. So I'm going to remove it from the tin. And while it's still warm, I'm going to drizzle it with some of this icing. No perfect way, just adds a little bit of extra pizzazz. But it is good if you can let it sit for at least 20 minutes before you start cutting it so the bread can rest. And I can't wait to cut it open and show you. Okay, I'm going to let that rest and relax for 20 minutes before I chop into it. So I've let my babka bread cool down. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to cut it this way to show you what it looks like on the inside. Babka bread, twist bread. It's got so many different names, but check that out. Looks delicious. I haven't had my dinner, so I really shouldn't do a taste test, but I just grabbed a little bit off the side. Let me come closer. I won't have any because I'll spoil my dinner, but I want to show you. Look how good that looks. You got all this like yummy orange bread with twists of chocolate in there. I think this recipe is better than my original one. Give it a go and let me know in the comments below if you've tried it and you like it. What's not to love? Chocolate and orange are just so good together. Hit the thumbs up if you've liked it. Consider subscribing, and I'll put some links up above, some other bread ideas. And once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Yum, yum, yum.